That was when I first noticed a slight difference between what my male colleagues needed to get in the boardroom compared to what I needed to get in the boardroom. I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm out of there. I am going to set up my own business. I am 50 next year. For the first time, I was listening to my gut instinct and I knew it was the right thing to do.
Hi, I'm Chinwe. This is a podcast where we dive into the inspiring journeys of ordinary women who dare to break free from traditional career norms, defying social expectations to follow their passions towards a meaningful purpose. In a world often captivated by the glitz and glamour of celebrity stories and achievements, it is essential to recognize the quieter yet equally powerful stories that unfold in the lives of everyday women. And so my guests on this podcast are women who reflect the realities of your own daily lives and whose transformations will truly resonate with you. So be prepared to be inspired, because you will be reminded that the things you are naturally passionate about could be your calling, and that we can all experience greater happiness and freedom in our daily lives when we allow our passion to lead us to a purpose. This is Beyond 9 to 5. I am super excited about our guest today.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Can't wait.
I'm so excited to welcome Adelle Martin. Adelle is a founder of Stronger Together Through Cancer, a charity which supports small business owners facing cancer.
Amazing.
Drawing from her personal experience, Adelle understands firsthand the challenges of balancing a cancer diagnosis with the responsibilities of running a business. And I certainly can't wait. I honestly can't wait for us to dive into her journey from a highly successful corporate career to becoming an author, a fitness trainer, an award-winning menopause coach, and now the founder of a charity which is doing important work in her community. So exciting. We're going to learn so much.
I know. Such a lovely journey.
So let's welcome Adelle, the ordinary woman next door, who transformed her challenges into a powerful mission to uplift others. Adelle.
Hi, Adelle.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Where do I start? So most people listening or watching this podcast wouldn't know you, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background, your education background, whatever you think people need to know about you? Can you tell us a bit about you?
I like the start when you said ordinary girl.
Yeah.
And that's all I was just an ordinary girl.
Yeah.
But I always had, when anyone said to me, it can't be done. No, I can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I put that down to my parents. You know, they were... at the time in the 70s, it was full of strikes. But, you know, my mum and dad said, you know what, we won't conform. We're going to set up our own business. So that was the first stage I got the entrepreneur, and everyone said, well, it won't work. So I've always been around. When someone says it can't be done, we just find a way. So I was always that resilient, bossy, and that's what you were in the 70s. If you had the voice, and to be fair, and in the 80s, if you was. So I just always looked at everything and said, well, actually, it can be done. And I've always found a way. So it literally just that ordinary girl that saw a challenge and decided that, okay, that may not work first time or second. And I can honestly say, and then at the time, you know, I was growing up and I developed a speech impediment, again, which was a challenge. So I would say the one thing that turned the ordinary girl into that extraordinary girl was resilience, that I had to find my own way growing up in, it was a man's world all the way through. So I just found that. I found a way, and that is how I'm an ordinary girl doing extraordinary things. And that for me is what I've always said to anyone who asks me, how did you get to where you got? The way out of where we were was education. You know, and my mum said to me at a very early age, do you want to drive a car or push a pram? I want to drive a car. So I grew up thinking education. So I had to do all my training, go to school, do my homework, and then go and do sport in the evening. So I was used to that sort of schedule. And then my dad said to me, this, got to think now, you've got reality and talent shows. My dad said, you're going to have to go and get a real job. You can't make money out of dancing. Oh, okay. So literally I thought, okay, I'm good with numbers. I was brilliant. I did all my business exams. So I went to work in 1988 in a bank. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna do that. And because I could add up, and I proved that I could add up, and I passed the test, they put me again top floor in accounts. And I was like, okay. And then I realised that I was pretty good at this. So they said to me, actually, you're really quite bright. But at the time, I come from local town, and they said, if you want to get on in banking, halve the amount of jewellery you've got on, and wear a suit. And I was, and at that point, I thought, why should I? And then I thought to myself, do you know what? There are some times when you have to go, actually, you've got a point, and I will conform. I will conform my way.
Yes.
Which I did.
Yeah.
And again, I did evening classes because it was business and finance. I always believed that I wanted to work and study at the same time, because then when you're doing the coursework, it was completely, you could apply both to it. Yeah. So they fast tracked me again in a man's world, and they said, right, if you can survive this team, then you'll be able to survive anything. So they put me on the bottom floor, and I'm like, okay, what was I, 19, 20?
Wow.
So I was doing my first year of undergrad part-time. So they put me downstairs. And this is the irony. I walked into this room and they all look so old. They're probably about my age, like 55. And I'm definitely showing my age now. And they were all using microfiche, where you can pull all the files back. And I used to say, where do all these women go at lunchtime? They're not in the counter. They're in the fiche reader because it's nice and cool, because they get really hot. So the irony is, I was supervising these people, and they were amazing and they loved me. But what happened? So I started to lead them in the September and Christmas. I said, Adelle, we always do a Secret Santa down here, but we're going to buy yours for you. I was like, okay. I was like super chuffed. Oh, they really, really like me. And then they gave me the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And what they said to me is, Adelle, we love you.
Yes.
But dictating and telling us what to do, it's not the right way to engage people. I'm so glad they told me that at 19. And from that day onwards, I actually studied psychology, and I read a lifelong learning about how to engage people, how to influence people, how the brain works, etc. So all of a sudden, then I become the people person of finance. But and that is how I then got fast tracked all the way through. But every time I got to sort of for the next role and I had my career path, it was, Adelle, you need more qualifications. And that was when I first noticed a slight difference between what my male colleagues needed to get in the boardroom compare to what I needed to get in the boardroom. And Adelle is, but why? And I thought, okay, I do need that degree. I do need that MBA to get in the boardroom. Perhaps those gentlemen don't. But you know what? I'm going to learn and I'm going to do that. But that was when I realised, moving forward, as I got into middle management to get into the boardroom, that was when I really felt the tension and the strain. And that was in the 90s. That's got to remember, that was way before diversity and inclusion, anything come on. It really was. And as I then, got married, had my daughter, it was very much, you're seen in the boardroom, but, it's easier not to talk about the family. And again, I went through that stage of corporate where there are no breakfast clubs, etc. So I hit corporate with that can-do attitude. Don't get me wrong, there were some days where I was like, but why do I have to? Why is it perceived that I've got to do more than the gentleman in the room next to me? And I would go away, have my moment. I thought, okay, I'll get back up and I will go forward. So I always found a way round, but I felt that was where that resilience came in. No matter what they said to get into that boardroom, I would do everything I would to do it, to prove a point. But also at that point, as I moved into my MBA, I realised that I didn't want the younger generation, or what my daughter would be, to have the same fight as myself. So I started to give back, do leadership programs and go into schools to start so I could create more of us. And other women were coming to me and say, how do you get in the boardroom? How do you stay in the boardroom? How do you get there?
Yeah.
So I just shared the extraordinary way ordinary people did.
Yeah.
And then I paid it back. So for me, I've always done that mentoring. And when I went into the schools, the girls go, and you come from local? Yeah. And again, because I always believe when I was moving through my career, I couldn't see what I wanted to be. I just needed to be it. Yeah. So my generation hitting that boardroom, that's what we said. If you can't see it, you can't be it. So I shared my story to help others.
I was just thinking while you were talking about the women that gave you that book, right?
Yeah.
I felt like it must have been like a sense of they knew something you didn't.
Yes.
And they found a way to parcel it and hand it over to you because clearly Dale Carnegie is your favorite author now.
Yes.
And that meant something. And it felt to me, listening to it, as if they were in a way aware of your abilities and where you were headed, and they needed to give you that little bit of extra.
Yeah, they knew
that
the
potential, couldn't they?
I mean,
Yes.
that's such a thoughtful gift to give to a newcomer, a teenager who's just joined the room.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing.
They knew my heart was in the right place. My execution was a little bit to be desired.
But they had the wisdom to find a way to kind of, help refine you.
They did.
And
they did. And as I moved through my career, no matter how high up I went in the bank, I'd always go back down to the ground floor.
Yes.
Just when I wanted to take some time out because of the noise and everything else. And I do. And I said to those ladies exactly what they said. We knew your heart was in the right place, but your delivery is. And that's important. That's self-awareness. And that got me onto self-awareness. Even today, I know who I am on a good day and I know who I am on a bad day. Yeah. And if I'm having a bad day, I will just withdraw and make sure it's okay. But self-awareness precedes change. Yeah. And that was the biggest gift that they gave me.
What sparked your leap from the corporate world? Tell me about what happened, because I think it was slightly dramatic.
Yes. So
tell me.
So as I worked through my corporate career, and I did get into the boardroom, so I made it in the September just before the financial crisis. I had my opportunity to lead through what was still today, the financial crisis, which was amazing because I loved peacetime leadership, but I did like a crisis. Yeah. That's what I was renowned for, that crisis. So I worked through that. What I was finding is that my usual way of getting through with resilience just didn't seem to be working. And there was one meeting after another, then going home and dealing with a growing family, going through GCSEs, etc. And it all came to a head one day where I had a complete breakdown. And then I had to take sort of 6 months off. And we now know that the whole breakdown was caused by an early menopause and all of that element. So that changed everything. So when I went back to work, I actually left finance. I went back to HR because I knew that my daughter was going to university and I knew that she was going to go on and do her master's. So I knew I needed to carry on. But that whole breakdown changed everything for me. And I'm thinking, actually, what's really important for me is spending more time, showing others that it's okay to say you're not okay with family and mental health and menopause and diversity and inclusion. And at the same time, realistically, I had to carry on earning money because supporting my daughter through education was not going to be cheap at all. So I thought, right, okay, how can I do both? How can I carry on earning money? But I felt through that breakdown, I wanted more than just, my whole career had been around, which is all the right thing about bottom line and shareholder value and everything else. But that one moment, no, there's more to life. I want more. So I knew I wanted to set up my own business doing more coaching with women. So moving into HR was a good compromise, okay? Because having a career and being a mum is all about compromise. Yeah, it really is. It's all about compromise. So, don't get me wrong, I felt guilty when I was at work for not being there for my daughter. Then when I was with my daughter, I felt guilty for a presentation that needed, do you know what, I was just guilty for probably 20 odd years. So I just resolved to that. But what I learned to find a compromise, and I learned to involve my family. So I said, right, Millie, this is what you want to do. Then Mum has got to go back to work. And then I chose a career where I could do both. And I started in HR, putting in lots of policies to help women going on maternity leave, menopause, diversity and inclusion. But at the same time, then it was afraid the side hustle. And oh, you can't do that. You can't set up a side hustle. How are you going to have a full-time job and set up a coaching business on the side? So I started building up that coaching company and just worked with a few women on the side, coaching on what I really enjoyed. And then my HR role was everything I wanted it to be from that point of view. We're facing into this era of mine where at 50, you become invisible. You become invisible. You're not employable. There were celebrities on Instagram being, humiliated for aging. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to be 50 next year. I'm going to prove a point. And somebody had said to me, you've got, why don't you do bodybuilding? It's a bit of a gymnastics. So I said, and everyone said, oh no, you won't be able to do that. That's like red rag to a bull. So I started and I trained really, really hard. And I went away with my mum. As again, I wanted to spend a bit of time building up my business and preparing for the show. And as we got to the departure gate, coming home, I got the text message I never wanted to have, and that my best friend Kelly had passed away from the impact of breast cancer. Came home, I got some time off work, and on the way home from her funeral, I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm out of there. Yeah. I am going to set up my own business. I am 50 next year. I've booked in February to go and see Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama in New York on their world tour for 2020 and what the vision will bring. Yeah. I'm going to go. And they said, look, please take some extra time. Don't make a rash decision. I said no. So first week of January, I just literally got the train to London and handed in my notice. Yeah. And I was absolutely petrified. But I just knew for the first time I was listening to my gut instinct, and I knew it was the right thing to do. Yeah. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew it was going to be the right thing to do.
Do you think losing Kelly was an important trigger?
Yeah, it was. And I talk to so many women now, and obviously I've got a second part to my story. And I find that women in particular have these, I want to, I will one day. I used to hear that a lot. And I was that woman. One day I'm going to set up my own business. One day I'm going to do this. Because it's uncomfortable. Stepping into the unknown. It's uncomfortable after being in the safety of corporate to go forward as a businesswoman when you don't know any businesswomen. And at the time I thought I had no transferable skills, which turned out to be completely wrong. And everyone's going, oh my God, Adelle, wouldn't it be better just to sit there for 5 years until your pension comes? It'd be really comfortable and safe. And I was like, oh no, I don't know. I'm not sure. But once I lost Kelly, it was do you know what? Having some time off, I listened to my gut instinct. Surprising what happens when you take the noise out of your life and listen to your gut instinct. And I thought to myself, for once in my life, Millie went, Mum, you're not responsible for me anymore. Like, okay. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And I handed my notice in and they said, come back up. And I said, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to look at my team. Because if I see any of them, I'm going to feel obligated. Yes. And so I didn't go back until I'd signed to leave. And then we had a farewell party. Yeah. Because if I'd gone back and seen my team, I'm not so sure. But I find women, there's that one defining moment that gives you I just knew I had to do it. Yeah. Although I was very scared.
I met you, when was it? 2021? When did we meet? I think 2021.
Yeah, because we was,
You'd done a talk at the Women in Business meeting, and I was like, okay, this is totally my kind of girl. She did this talk in her black leggings and her cutout t-shirt like that, showing muscle.
Yes.
I'm like, all right. And a few weeks later, I called you and I said, can you give me some of that, right?
You did.
And you got me through a really interesting period in my life when I've made a decision to invest in myself, not just in getting things for myself, but actually in my own body, in my own fitness, in my own mental state, because I kind of also sensed where my own journey was going, and I felt like I needed the strength. And you were just absolutely remarkable. And I've been asking Adelle, can you go back to fitness training, please? Because I want some more of it.
Fabulous.
Did you always have that, that closeness we had? Because every time we had a session, I felt like me and you were just buddies. And I'd write poems, because I do write poems, and we'd share it and everything. Did you have that process for the women that you coached? And if so, why was it important to be like that with them?
Absolutely. I made a decision, again, because I spent my whole career engaging, and towards the end of my career, I was engaging with executive and professional women that just, they were hungry for it. They really wanted that growth purpose. So when I set out to coach, I wanted to work with like-minded women. I wanted to work. So that's why I did a lot of, chatting to people beforehand, because it wasn't where a lot of people start their business and take lots of clients. I didn't. I've learned time is precious, and even more so now. So when I connected with you and we spoke, and you spoke about your challenges, I saw at that time myself in you. So we
did connect.
Yeah, we did.
Totally.
And all of the women that I work with, I just saw myself and some of the struggles, because it'd be so easy to say, I got here, will you try? If someone's gone out as a trailblazer and found a way, I believe in givers gain. Yeah. And so from my point of view, I could see your struggle. I could just see myself in you. Yeah. So it was easy to connect. And then also, sometimes people say the right things, but don't always do the right things. As soon as I see that what you said and what you did, and we went in the gym, after those few sessions, I could see, you definitely want to put the effort in. Yeah. And that's how we could connect it. Yes. And also, while we were chatting and talking, I'd be able to put an extra kilogram without you seeing. I know. And then you say, well, how much was that? And that's 30. Really? I'm very smart.
I hadn't seen you for a while. And the next time I saw you, you told me you had a diagnosis.
Yes.
And I literally had to pick my jaw from the ground, because I was like, what?
Yeah. So
how did that happen?
So I didn't get on stage because Kelly passed away. Yes. So then we went to lockdown. So I literally just went back in the gym to build more and more. Then I decided to get back on stage again. So I did in 2022, and everyone again said I wouldn't, and then everybody
I was there.
If you win, I'll do it. And guess what? I did win, and I did get my pro card. So that's where it started, and then that was in the November. And then as a professional, I went back on stage in April, and but because you spend a lot of time in the gym and a lot of walking to get your steps up, I was listening to lots and lots of podcasts about blood work, and also with coaching menopause. My clients in South Africa and America have their blood work done every quarter, and their hormones match them. I thought, this is fascinating, because I'm always that PhD student. So I thought, actually, I'm going to have this done as well. Completely. So got out the show, came second for pro, all great. So I went then and had my blood work done privately through a sports coach, had it all done. And he phoned me and said, I'm going to send it through to you, get it, but you're going to need to go straight to your GP. And I was like, okay, and these 4 pages with most red. I don't like red marks on anything. And also it showed that whatever HRT I was taking was not working either. It, was red blood cells completely high level, no HRT. So we sorted that out with the doctor. And I wasn't absorbing vitamin D, anything. I was really struggling. They pushed the button, and then I went up for more blood work for the hospital. Then I went back on the Tuesday after bank holiday on the August, and everything was, are you tired? Are you fatigued? Yes, I am. Sometimes I can't think straight, and everyone said, it's just your age. I'm like, it can't be, because this more. No, I said, no, this isn't. I've been tired through a night out, but this is the only time I could ever recall being this fatigued was when I was breastfeeding in the middle of the night and working. And this was a fatigue that isn't just tired. So I got into the waiting room and I'm like, I've got clients booked in all afternoon. And the waiting room was full of ladies a lot older than me. And they were all staring at me. I'm like, oh God, I really haven't got time for this. And we're running slightly behind. And I'm thinking, I really haven't got time for this. And then they called me in and said, oh, here's your file. You're going to go in to be weighed and your height done. I was like, this is a lot for iron injection or iron tablet.
Because you thought you had just low in iron or something
exactly,
like that.
that's what it was saying. And she just smiled at me, and I thought, well, that's a right. And I'm standing on the scales, looking and thinking, that's a rather thick file.
Yeah.
What the blooming hell is this about? And then she said, oh, your consultant. I was like, okay. I'm thinking, look, I'm really sorry. He's running a bit late. I said, I'm so sorry. I've got clients booked. And another smile. I thought, well, she's not very talkative. I thought, well, just ignore it. It's Tuesday. It's late. Right, you can go in. So I sat in, and he was sitting in front of me. And then there was this nurse leaning across the bed at a distance. He says, right, I'm going to wait for a second nurse to come in. I was like, I'm really sorry, but I'm on a time. And he went, She smiled at me. I thought, oh, God, here we go. And then the nurse came and sort of stood behind me. And you know when you feel like everyone's now all of a sudden invading my personal space? I was like, okay. And he said, did anybody question your early menopause? No. Did anybody question why you've had 2 hips partially replaced just after that? No. Have you had bone DEXA scans? Have you had any other blood work done? I went, no, not at all. He went, oh, okay. He said, you got myeloma. I was like, man, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then the nurse, who's now my Macmillan nurse, leant forward and put the book on the table with a really old lady on the front of it. And in the top right-hand corner, all I could see was the green logo of Macmillan.
Of Macmillan.
And I was like,
what are they? What is this?
Where are we going here?
Yeah. I was like, okay, what does this mean? And he said, and then they put their arms around me. I'm like, well, can you just talk to me? I don't understand. What is it? And he said, you've got a very rare blood cancer. The red blood cells, there's 2 of them, and one will attack the bones. I said, well, why is everybody old? And he said to me, the irony is, Adelle, we find it when women pretty much over their 70s break bones or have compression fractures in their spine. And then when we look, it's worse than osteoporosis. He said, you have found it because you have had your blood work done.
Yeah.
So naturally, the main symptoms to begin with is fatigue. And brain fog and joint pain.
You had those in abundance.
That's about everything.
That's
literally.
Exactly, that's what I've said. And because my HRT wasn't working, some of those were quite profound. And I'd gone through 2 bodybuilding competitions and I climbed Snowdon.
Yes. Wow.
You know, and so I said, okay. And then they said, and we've got one more thing to tell you. I was like, what more can you tell me? And they said, it's incurable. It's incurable. Okay. He said, so we need to get you off now for bone biopsies. You know, I wasn't a great fan of needles. I'm just no choice now. The amount of blood and tests. And I was thrust into this unbelievable 2-week do you know what? There's some points I can't even remember any of it. You're just thrown into it. Yeah. And at that time, I then realised that as I literally drove home, because I was on my own, because I really thought I was going to get iron tablets, phoned my family and they came. And then I'm like, I've got a business to run. I have a business to run. I am my business. Yeah. And and that started that element. And then I went for tests, and then I got the results back, and they said, you know, it's really hard as this to sound, is you've actually done nothing wrong. I've got a genetic dyslock. And the 3 markers for high risk versus normal risk with myeloma, I've got all the high risk ones as well. Yeah. So I said, so what are we going to do? He said, you're at stage 1, smouldering stage 1. So they called it asymptomatic. But I'm doing a lot of work with them, because what they're saying is symptomatic is when you get the lesion elements of it at that stage. But what they don't count are the other symptoms, that we're working with.
Because you're not asymptomatic, are you? Because you had symptoms that brought you to their doorstep eventually. Exactly. And I think that's really interesting, because tired all the time That's how I write it when I, in my clinical notes, TAT. That is quite a lot of us women,
Yes.
running around, children, even physiologically, having a regular period and menstruating every month. Many of us are iron deficient and we're tired all the time. And I've always wondered why, especially here in the UK, I think it's a very sort of UK thing, why we don't go regularly to our GPs to get checked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It should literally be every single year, at least once a year, you go in and you get yourself. Now I say this knowing how already under-resourced a lot of GPs are.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really important thing to stop and flag here when we assume we're tired all the time just because, and actually go years and years without ever having gone to just check.
Yeah.
So a simple blood work.
And that's what I would say. So I started, what I thought was taking good supplements. I chose to have HRT because I knew bone density was going to be an issue for me. But because at that time, blood work is really only the last 2 years in the UK, but has been predominant in other countries. Yeah. I wore that and took my supplements in good faith and I wasn't absorbing them. Yeah. So again, it was my tenacity because when I first had menopause back in the boardroom and then went again to see the first doctor, before I'd even sat down, they were prescribing me antidepressants because, again, age, women of a certain age, it was that element. Yeah. But I pushed back. And that was when I decided, do you know what? I'm going to take some time out. Yeah. It's a financial risk because of my business. I had to scale that down.
You are your business,
I was my business. I had to scale it down. And that was when I realised that, and then I didn't want to ask for help. So people are saying to me, you're entitled to X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I'm not asking for help. Yeah. I'm not. I've spent my whole career paying into, no, I'm not. Because one, I didn't want to admit I needed help financially and support from Macmillan. And secondly, again, it's facing into the truth. So I took some time out and realised that, I needed to change my business. As angry as I was that I'd got the diagnosis, I thought to myself, right, come on, Adelle, you've been here before. You are going to make your priorities, you're going to compromise and you're going to do something different.
On, yeah. I love the way you evolve. You like, it's like we are not one long chapter. Is what I'm saying. We are a book. We're books, right? And each book is and we have every right to flip the page or change direction or evolve. Yeah. And I think you've done it so brilliantly. And I think this obviously clearly led you towards Stronger Together Through Cancer. Yeah.
Today's episode of Beyond 9 to 5 is brought to you by Health Mary. Ladies, let me introduce you to Health Mary app, the ultimate girl power health platform built for women by women. Connect with trusted female health practitioners who understand your unique needs. From fitness and menopause coaching to skin and nutrition, expert consultations are just a tap away. Health Mary interviews and screens every single one of their practitioners, so you can know that they are the best in the business of looking after you. The app isn't just a directory for finding the best female specialists. The Reels feature gives you instant access to a wealth of qualified content posted on the app by the top-notch professionals on there. This is not social media type of content. This is like a digital health magazine in your hands and on the go. And the best part is that it's free to download and join. So what are you waiting for, girl? Download the app and unleash the girl power inside to enhance your health and well-being.
It is the most optimistic version of a cancer charity. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. It's because usually when you think about cancer charities, you're thinking about winding down. But actually what you guys do is about keeping people in business. And that feels to me like you're not winding them down. You are kind of giving them hope. There is hope, there is optimism, there is I mean,
and that again that is from sort of experience, because people genuinely were coming from a good place. Oh, at least you can now wind down and, retire and take a step back from your business. And I said, I haven't got private healthcare anymore. I left that.
Yeah.
And I don't get paid when I don't work.
Yeah.
I haven't actually got a passive income or leveraged income product at the moment because everything I do is tailored to my clients. So who's going to pay the bills?
Yeah.
And people's like, right, okay. But you can apply for benefits. So I pushed the button on that. And that I can honestly tell you, to apply for anything as a self-employed person is absolutely a long process. I'm still in the process.
Yeah.
And if I told you how many times you have to reiterate your story, and it's really hard. So I've found ways to help others. Yeah. So I realised that actually, and do you know what? The time I really want my business is now, because it's given me that hope and that purpose. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the interesting bit is when I lost Kelly to breast cancer, one of my gym buddies helped me through it, and I lost her in COVID out of the blue to breast cancer. And then I lost one of my team leaders, Helen. And I said with Kelly, I want to set up a charity to help breast cancer. But for all intents and purposes, I mothballed it because I was trying to get my coaching business. When my family finally went home, because I got to the point where, look, do you know what? I've got to deal with this. I've got to get back to work. I was on the computer, and the terms of reference for that original charity idea that came up, that's when I realised I was the woman in my own story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So where I was having the charity as a friend that had lost 3 friends, now I am that business owner.
Yeah.
And as I've gone through it, and then I was talking to my co-founder, Fiona, we were both sharing similar elements of it. And then I was talking to Matt Millen, who was working with me to manage my mind around the diagnosis. And I kept saying to Janet, there's a real gap in this, This was my charity. And she said, fill the gap.
Fill the gap,
she said, on the premise that you reduce your coaching business down to the core, because we'd gone through the stage of me having too much. And I then realised that this is big, because the more people, like menopause, the more women I spoke to, particularly women more than men, they were completely disadvantaged. And I did the data, and 55% of women go bankrupt within the first year of hearing the words, you've got cancer. And I know how very close that feels. Yeah. So that was why I then looked. And again, I wanted a social purpose. I didn't want people to feel sorry for us. Yes. I wanted people to encourage us. So that's why it's interesting feedback. That's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, a charity that was focused on growth rather than
growth in the rather than a wind down. Yeah. And this is it. And then so what does your charity do for the people you look after and help?
What I realised, so we provide, and it's tailored personal and professional services. So from a personal point of view, when you get the diagnosis and you're thrust into all different options of treatments, etc., no one sits you down and says, okay, what's the worst going to happen to you personally? And if you haven't, depending on the type of treatment, because there's so many different treatments, every person is different. We went through when we were looking at the first stage, am I going to lose my hair? Am I going to lose? So if I did, then I'm going to need some help with wigs, or what about eyebrows? And, what about, anything from a personal point of view.
What about children?
Yeah, it could be who's going to do childcare,
the school run,
even pets. Who's going to walk the dog? I've got care responsibilities. I support my parents. Yeah. All of these things that when you are the heart of the family, and all of a sudden the heart needs to take some time out. Yeah. That's just the personal. Yeah. Then from a business point of view, which I do spend a lot of time in hospitals and a lot of time in waiting rooms. Who's answering my emails?
Yes.
Who's
taking the calls?
Could I, what is that? Who's taking the calls? Could I have quickly got some leveraged income or a something, a video or something, even if it was a reasonable amount of money that I could have got on my website, could I put a holding page on? So we will support them with a PA. So we will sit down. So when we talk to that person, women mainly, we say, right, what's the worst can happen to you personally? It's a tough conversation, but God, I wish somebody had done that to me. Because what goes on in your head is worse than sitting with somebody who's been through it and go, actually, this is the worst can happen, but don't worry, we could connect you with this person and that person. Right, from a business point of view, have you got a passive income? No. Okay, what do you know? If you just do a video, I'll get someone to help you to type it up. Let's sort out your social media for you. Let's put a newsletter out, whatever you need, and if somebody says, actually, I do want to close my business, then we would sell it rather than walk away. But we'd also have that cooling off period. And we've even had someone say, actually, I want to change my business altogether because now I've got a cancer diagnosis. I want to do this, this and this. Okay, let's go and do that. So at the end of the day, we've got, it's that. We just sit and thing is, what I've noticed is that once I got diagnosed, people talk to me as the diagnosis rather than Adelle. You would be so surprised how people talk to you so differently. Some people would say, I ignore you because they don't know what to say. And other people and I say, the one thing I want to do is talk to them as people. And everybody says, yes, I understand. Unless you're walking in our shoes, I would doubt that very much that you understand. Everybody cares. Okay. The thing is, because our values are, we understand because we truly do.
You do.
We care. And the other one is help.
Yes.
Because when you actually, and people, anything, I'll help you. I love that word. And you go, well, actually, can you go, well. Yeah. So for me, we want to be the charity and have a network that truly helps. And that is the bit that was missing for us, that we're still professional women, but we just need help.
I think you've just transferred a lot of what you did with the coaching there, to be honest, because I think it's pretty much you wanting to sit down with the person, know them, get to know them, and make that connect, because you have that connection. You get where their pain points are, and then you structure around them pretty accurately, isn't it? To kind of meaningfully help.
Yes.
And I love that your charity is actually drawing that big, massive circle around the person and thinking about, okay, what else is going on other than this diagnosis and how is it impacting?
Yeah.
And can I just ask you, how can people help with it? Because I love it. I love that what you're doing, and I think it's so important. How can people help?
So the way that we've built this charity. So, for instance, the services that are going to support our clients, they are business people in Kent.
Okay.
So they are business people in Kent, and we will, talk to them and have a conversation. So to keep myself in business as going through cancer, I would get somebody to help me with wigs or, so in actual fact, you're creating a self-fulfilling. So it's business people. Actually, I'm facilitating and conducting. So it's business people helping business people.
Yes.
And there are 96,000 small business owners, predominantly, they're in Kent, but they're predominantly in Medway and Maidstone, and predominantly women.
Really?
So, and again, same with the going through cancer. So we're using those women and men to help from a servicing point of view. So we've got that element of it as well. So that they're supporting us. And then we have... we've got angels. So we've got women, they're our donators that donate an ongoing percentage of a service. So for instance, if you are on your own, you're running a business, and you want to do something responsible and socially responsible, they can't do that on their own because they're on their own, but they will donate. So we've got one person who's giving us a percentage of every facial she does. Yes. But what we then do is give her the social responsibility angel, because women in particular will shop with social purpose. Yes. So if you've got recommendations of 3 women that do facials, and you see one woman who's given a percentage of that fee to a charity, but again, they're business women.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
And we will
Yeah.
then promote that in there. So again,
Yeah.
it's another way of creating social purpose.
Yeah.
And then I've created sustainable products that people can buy, because what I didn't want to do is just have the charity with one income stream. So I've spread the risk, and also people want to get involved. So again, it's a community purpose, and social enterprise. Kent, who we've worked with, were like, we really like this. And my vision is what we create in Kent, including having our own building, I want to replicate across the UK.
Yeah. I mean,
and because it's all about business people, keeping business people in, and nobody has done this.
yes, I was just going to say, like, this is
me
new.
though. I always do what nobody
This is
has
new.
done.
This is uncharted territory again, and I think it's amazing, and I think I would really implore people to kind of check this out, because I think it's a really good one. I love that it's not what you, like you said, a shake the bucket kind of thing. It's about people really meaningfully coming to help other people who are in difficulty, in a strong, connected way.
Stronger together. And that's
stronger
together. That's where it came from.
Stronger together. I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, we're looking at an article the other day when we Lou, about young people who are diagnosed with cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the struggles that they go through. And it's the same kind of thing where they need that support, and they're just totally lost, and they lose their friends, their emotional support. And it's so important right from the word go to say, this is how we think it might go.
Yeah.
This is what we can do to help you. This is where you can go. These are the people we can help you with. All of those things. So right from that day one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that, again, when you look at, teenagers, and not so much, I'm saying more around that teenager, just when you're starting to connect and put your stamp on the on the world, you get that diagnosis. And the thing is, you really are putting this whole institution element of it, so that's why we want to create this building, so you can step out of that. But for a teenager that all of a sudden can't go to school. Or what we feel as business owners, where in some ways, it's hard on your own being at home as a business owner to then thrust into it. I can only imagine how the teenagers would feel around that as well. And people, don't get it. And so if whatever your diagnosis or whatever group you're in, sometimes, but as a business owner, people just know, it's nice for you to give up now. You're like, no, I don't want to. It's because it's finding people who understand that you want to do mad things now, and rather than, and your family are brilliant, but they want to protect you. And it's nice to talk to like-minded people who just get it.
Yeah.
And you want to live life.
Yeah.
Life is all for you. It's all about living, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's not sitting back.
No, I don't know. I live from 2 months test to 2 months test to scan to scan to consultant. I'm doing everything in my power to keep my end of the bargain up.
Yeah.
I don't know, gosh, that's probably the hardest thing. I have always had a plan.
Yes.
I'm controlled. Everything's color coded, this is how I've run my life. You can see the poster. I've run my life. I'll tell you a funny story. So, because it's incurable, I had to have Macmillan. I don't need counselling. I'm fine. I did all this for a living. I don't need counselling. No, you must go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went. I walked in, sat down like this, and she said to me, Adelle, just to let you know, I've been brought down from London. Cancer doesn't discriminate whether you're a CEO or a celebrity. So go out, walk back in again, sit down with your arms unfolded and listen to me. I promise you it will be okay. So I was like, gosh.
That just gave me goosebumps.
So
my goodness.
I sat back down and she said to me, right, I bet you like a 4-box model. You love the change curve and everything else. I've read your notes. And then I said to her, I'm so sorry. And we just absolutely connected from there because she got me. She got me and she understood me. And then we worked through 8 weeks, and she's there if I need her as well. And she again said, look, Adelle, why don't you take the charity and cut off everything else. But I needed to be told.
Do you have any superpowers that you thought weren't superpowers before, but now you're thinking, all right, I could do with this little bit part of me, because we women were used to tucking away certain parts of ourselves that we think is not appropriate, shouldn't be done, all of that.
Doesn't value you at that
So
time.
what do you think, Adelle? What do you think about that concept? About
that is so key, and because I grew up in a world of seen and not heard. Grow up, even in corporate, I made it to the boardroom, you're seen and you're not heard. So I have always accommodated people as a people pleaser, not overly, but I would so having the cancer diagnosis, my superpower is no, because I truly have nothing to lose. And that is what I always had inside me. But growing up in the environment I did, it was deliver, seen and not heard.
Yeah.
So
just say yes to everything.
Say yes to everything, because I had to keep the status quo because I was doing different things in a different time. And all of a sudden I realised that I found my voice. I had obviously my speech impediment. I've worked really hard, but I truly found my voice. And I stopped apologising and I learnt the word no, and it took a cancer diagnosis to do that. So what I want to say to other women is not one day. I thought my one day moment was in the boardroom with my breakdown. And I said, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to do this. But there was still that element of me that held back. That, should I say that? Is that going to be the right thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? And yet, everyone said to me, oh God, you've got a lot of sass and everything else. I did, but that little part, that voice in me, seen and not heard. Be seen and not heard. Yeah. Are you really going to be that? Are you really going to be that different? But it really has taken a cancer diagnosis to say, I'm not working with you anymore. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Saying no,
absolutely. So I say that's my superpower. And that's what I tell my daughter now is say no.
And you're saying no to cancer, really, to be honest.
If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. I say to him, don't let a cancer diagnosis be your one day. So that's probably been my superpower. I said it quietly, but I never said it out loud. And that is no.
Adelle, quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Where is the best place? Because you're a fitness guru. Where is the best place to get good quality food, healthy food? You're in Kent, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, in Kent. Where can I go to have a good eat out and not feel guilty about?
So, do you know what? I go to the Cafe Nucleus bars that are in main towns because, again, they're socially responsible, but they have really lovely environment, but also the food is really healthy. I love the indulgence. And that's why, because for me, it's got social values, it's got indulgence, a bit of sass, and it's actually really good food. And again, I've got certain ways of eating, they accommodate it. So that's why I love them. And they're all in main towns. So I love that. It's my favourite.
Second quick fire question. Where can I shop for workout gear? Because we've done sessions before and I walk in and I'm like, oh girl, okay. What you wearing and what? So now I get the opportunity. I never asked because I just got distracted. But now I want to know, and I want everyone else to know, where do you shop?
I'm going to let you into my secret. I made a decision a few years ago to be completely sustainable. So I get most of my elements from Vinted.
Oh, I love a vintage shop.
Yeah. Vintage. So the main brands are on there.
That explain it. You look so unique in the gym. Even in the gym, she's like, oh,
because again, my pedantic. I make sure I'm colour coordinated from socks all the way up to hairbands and fleeces. But and if not, then I will go to a discount store, say somewhere like TK Maxx. But I go to the clearance first. I made a commitment a few years ago. Only buy brand new if I really, really, really need to. And it's a really good challenge. And charity shops. But Vinted, it just makes me think differently. I want to I want to contribute rather than consume. So I made that decision a few years ago, but even more so now. So yeah, I love a good bargain hunt. But I'm also really strict. If I buy something new, I will take something out of the wardrobe to the charity.
I don't do that.
So I've been very much into that whole sustainable element of it and social purpose. So
Amazing.
and it's good fun. It's too easy to just jump online and grab something offline to have delivered. I think it's more fun to go and search.
One of the things we're doing every time, on this podcast is our evergreen book. Right? So to put that in context, this book is green. Clearly.
Here we go.
And
the evergreen.
And I think that we are all holding a wisdom, something valuable, an affirmation, a wisdom, and a piece of advice that we can that we can pass on to the next person. This one here is a book where we're going to be asking all of our guests to write something that they think will be valuable. And we're going to read it out to you so you can reflect on it. And then at the end of the show, you'll leave your own piece of magic for the next guest.
I like that.
That should be fun, isn't it? So Luke, do you want to...
Absolutely.
What's in the book today? Let's see.
So,
Sorry.
Do you want to read it or I read it to you? Are you
visual? I haven't got my glasses.
Right, okay. She, like a caterpillar, found a way to make an end a new beginning. Shall I repeat that?
Yeah.
So she, like a caterpillar, found a way to make an end a new beginning.
That pretty much sums up my journey. And the bit that I would take is the end. And when you're in that caterpillar state, the end, it really feels like the end.
It's another door.
And then there's a flicker. No matter how low you go, there's a flicker inside you and you go, there's some light. And all I would say is, you don't always know where the light is going, but follow it, because every time I've trusted my judgment, followed the light, I've gone into a caterpillar. But expect, and this is where the resilience comes in, there'll be another life event and you go back to the end. But just for every end, there's a new beginning. And that is what I've learned, even with this.
Yeah.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Your caterpillar is there. Amazing. Just take the time.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's so lovely. In terms of, and how about you? How does it feel for you?
For me,
and I think all our life journeys that we've all been on, and mine have definitely not been as traumatic maybe as the final one that you are discussing today. But I think every journey has an end and a start. And it's about just trusting your gut and going within yourself and really knowing that you have the strength to make those changes, to be something different, to do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's entrepreneurial. We do it within our own personal lives as well.
Yeah, yeah. Transforming from a caterpillar to a butterfly is probably the most beautiful thing that happens, but you can see how painful it is for the caterpillar to make that transformation. So painful. You can feel it sort of breaking out from a shell, and it looks, if you've ever watched it on Discovery, like it's so clunky, it's so broken, it's so and then that ends, and then the butterfly takes off, and it's just so beautiful again. Adelle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a
pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you everyone for listening. It has been an absolute pleasure to have Adelle with us in studio today. Thank you. And to have my wonderful co-host, Lou Hayes, with me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Please hit the subscribe button. I think this is a really useful, valuable podcast that I think will make such a big difference to women across the world. if you support us, then we are able to bring these episodes to more and more women who need to hear these uplifting stories. Find Stronger Together online, Google it, and be part of this social enterprise that Adelle is creating. It is so important. I will love you and leave you now. In the meantime, keep your purpose front and center and your passions burning brightly. Thank you.